Hey guys, how's it going? I just wanted to, this was on my mind and I wanted to get this out before I start my day today. It's about what happened at the Conservative Party convention and then the row between the Conservative Party and the People's Party. And even though I ran for the People's Party, I'll try to be as objective as possible. Um, so this is sort of the impetus, what started at um, this video by Mr. Sunshine Baby. I mean, he posted, I'm sure other people did. It's just, this is a vote um, breaking anti gender ideology policy was just defeated at the Conservative Party of Canada AGM. So this is a bill that was supposed to stop the spread of transgender ideology in schools. I mean, I'm glossing over the details, and it was voted down. And they started cheering it, which is the problem. I'll play the video.
We do not have a double majority achieved on this.
Cette proposition n'a pas.
So I think they thought that nobody's going to pay attention, that it'll just blow over. Their entire focus at the Conservative Party for this convention was bringing on these seven social media influencers to try to, tap into their followers, their viewership, and then promote the party. I think they didn't calculate the blowback. They just figured Canadians are just complacent. I mean, after 6 years of us just getting absolutely brutalized by the government, nobody doing anything, or if we did do something, nothing coming of it. I think the Conservative Party just figured, who cares about the Canadian voters? They're nobodies. They can't do anything. They're not that. We just want them to surrender their vote to us. And the whole thing, it kind of blew up. Yeah, the People's Party, they put out this post. I'm sorry, I got to do it like this. Stupid StreamYard. So I got to bring it over here and I got to paste it in here. Uh, yeah, the Conservative Party, they put out this post. Thanks for making it easy to identify who targets our kids. And I'll come back to that. So these are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 social media influencers. I've actually gone on Mark Nixon's show. He's a very good person. I'm not attacking these people personally, but they've kind of attached themselves to the Conservative Party. So it would be like at this point criticizing a candidate that's running for the Conservative Party. They're employees of the Conservative Party. But anyway, the People's Party made this statement, and principally these influencers, they started attacking the People's Party. They said, how dare you accuse us of being essentially child molesters? And then they set up Just Me Jamie, another good friend of mine, wonderful person. She set up a space, and everybody came to that space to debate it. And I went and I listened, because I've been in this situation before. Every time the People's Party steps in it, they put their foot in their mouth. 95% of the internet comes out, starts dumping all over them, and then you got 5% of the hardcore base that's trying to stand up for the party, which is not what you want to do, because the base is not the one that's supposed to be standing up for the party. And then they start swearing and calling everybody a pedophile and child molester, and it discredits the People's Party. This was more 50-50, and I think even the host, Just Me Jamie, was kind of surprised, because half the people were saying this is an inappropriate post. The People's Party should not have made that statement. They should withdraw that post. They should apologize. It might be legal ramifications. The other half was saying, we don't give a blank. We don't give a damn what the People's Party said. We don't give a damn how they said it. We don't even care about the People's Party. The issue is not the People's Party. The issue is the Conservative Party. If they're not willing to stand up for parental rights, what are they conserving? And that was really the theme of the entire the theme that plagued the entire convention was, what are you conserving? Daniel Tyree went there. He had a picture with his I don't know if it was like an Indian MP or if it was Pierre Polyev with a ethnic attire. He's like, what are you conserving? What's there to conserve? The people are recognizing that the Conservative Party has drifted incrementally to the left, and this video I just showed you, where they're drifting further to the left, and then they're cheering the vote on when they find out that the party has drifted to the left. I think that really infuriated the base, because it was an insult. People are giving their money in terms of donations. They're surrendering their vote. They don't want to vote. They're not voting on principle. If they voted on principle, they probably vote for the PPC. They're surrendering their vote, and then the party turns around and spits in their face like that. So I found that was really interesting. And what's even more interesting is who is this user? Rachie underscore 0101. Go away, Nikki. Go away. She pointed this out. If the PPC had tightened up by adding, talking about the convention, or wrote, "Thanks for making it easy to identify the CPC convention who targeted our kids," the influencers wouldn't have had wiggle room. So where does she actually say this? Is it higher up above? Here we go. It wasn't even poorly worded. Certain people deliberately connected PPC's words to pleb's image. So if you look at this gentleman, I don't know which one's which. I think that's pleb. One of these guys, he writes, "The conservative convention has been legendary." And then the PPC writes, "Thanks for making it easy to identify who targets our kids." What the party meant was, "Thank you for covering the party so that we are made aware of that vote that was passed, which undermines parental rights. So now we know who targets our kids." But because the People's Party apparently has put a toddler in charge of their social media accounts, that this either that, or I don't know, some guy in India or somebody who was terminally hungover, and they just banged this post out in 30 seconds. So it sounds like the PPC is calling these guys child molesters. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know who this little kid is here in the middle. Maybe it's like a 60-year-old Asian man. He just looks young. But when I saw this, I thought this guy was making a porn reference, like that infamous porn video with that one white girl surrounded by like 5 black dudes. I thought that's what this post was. So PPC, man, you need to hire somebody who's at least borderline competent. But anyway, so the way that they worded it, I think the Conservative Party, they sensed the scandal coming because of that bad vote, and they either asked, or these guys just acted on instinct, and they tried to attack the People's Party, which is it's like a lawyer's tactic, where when you're losing an argument, you make another argument, you attack somewhere else, and you try to distract. It backfired this time because it's been 6 goddamn years that the government's been abusing us. That's been beating up on us. 3 elections, there's 3, right? 2019, 2021, 2025. 3 main elections when the PPC has been drowned out. When I say the PPC, just any populist, any independent, any libertarian candidate, the voters have been told, don't split the vote, Daddy, Conservative Party knows best. You are just a child. All you have to do is surrender your vote, and we'll take care of the rest. Well, they're not taking care of the rest. Transgenderism is one of the main issues that's pissing people off in Canada. There's 2 other ones: First Nations, which we'll get you, and then we'll get to, and mass immigration is the third one. JT, thanks for sharing the stream, and thanks for being up this early on a Saturday. Anything before 1 p.m. is early. Purdy, thank you for reposting the stream. JT, you are never the offensive one when you are standing up for the well-being of children. I like to agree with that, but things in Canada have proven to be the opposite. It's all about being nice. It's not about protecting your children. It's an abdication of parental rights. I'll go through it, but I think I'm a broken record. I've mentioned this so many times. Let's see. Let's go back. Guys, please don't piss me off. There's probably a bird outside. So, and then something else happened. This is sort of symptomatic of people recognizing it's like we're offended. You're offended. I know these guys. They've been on my show. I've been on their show. Great people. But it's almost like you wake up and you realize that all of a sudden the Conservative Party is not conservative, and people are freaking out. Not criticizing these guys in particular. It's happened to me too. But he says, can anyone confirm if this is true? If true, the CPC has a bigger problem. So Max Ginest, I don't really know who this guy is. Leaked DMs reveal Conservative MP Tamara Coronis voted against banning medical gender transitions for minors at the Conservative Party convention, citing media optics concerns. I opposed it because I'd rather take the stuff I'm taking today than see every mainstream media headline in this country be about this instead of Pierre's success this weekend. Now, I don't know how they leaked this, but I sympathize with this woman. When you're running for as a candidate for a party, and I've been there, you are downstream of culture. So when 80% of the voters are spineless, gutless, um, cowards, weak-kneed, and they just want to be nice and toe the party in the line, and they won't vote for you if you come across as mean. You have to cater to that. You're a victim to the people that could potentially vote for you. So this woman is not going to sacrifice her political career to stand on principle, to come out and say, no, I oppose transgenderism. We shouldn't have transgenderism is a clinical disease. It's like a mental disease, right? Like schizophrenia or bipolar, and we have to treat them. We want to be, we want to become kind and compassionate, but we can't be encouraging this stuff in school. And then she's going to lose the vote. The Conservative Party is going to throw her under a bus, and she's going to be ridiculed in her community, and she's not going to get invited to the next backyard barbecue. So she's making that calculus that why should I stand up if the people won't stand behind me? That's been my message all along, that it's not the political parties themselves that are inherently evil. They're just responding to our own cowardice. And that's what people have to wake up and accept. Can anyone confirm if this is true? If true, the CPC is a bigger problem. Yeah. I mean, maybe they can course correct and they can, drift a little bit to the right. But even more than this text, if you watch the convention, there's a clip of I think it's the candidates. They're getting up and talking, and one of the candidates said, like, this doesn't represent our values. This might discriminate other members, voters. It might make them feel uncomfortable, so we shouldn't talk about these issues. These guys, they're leftists. Like these candidates, they're left of center. And I saw it at the PPC as well. The PPC wasn't as bad. Like most of the candidates were populist. Unfortunately, the Overton window has gone so far to the left that populist means right of center. Some of them were straight up like leftists. The only reason that they came to the People's Party was because the People's Party was the sole party that was standing against transgenderism. And that goes back to what I'm saying, that transgenderism in Canada is becoming rapidly the number one issue for voters, for at least for parents. If you don't believe me, like that's what it took to push somebody out of the NDP or the Green Party, where they feel comfortable with all of the policies there, into the PPC, where all the policies are different, with the exception of its stance against transgenderism. And the Conservative Party kind of overlooking this, because presumably the Conservative Party doesn't listen to its base. I think it really hurt them in this convention, and they lashed out the only way they know, by changing the subject, attacking the PPC. It's still dark outside, payment. Yeah, true. Canadians' perception of what is nice is skewed, feminized, suicidal empathy. JT, you and I, we agree on so many things, but a lot of the people that I talk to still don't agree with it. And the person that woke me up to this was, Lord, what's that guy from the Caris Project? Black guy, Alberta. Man, I should know these things. I'm horrible with names. And he's the one that said, like, feminism is a big problem. And if you look at it, it's the beginning of DEI in Canada. And feminism is it's hard to see it because half the population are women. And then from that, you got the whole gay rights movement. You could trace a line. Like I was, this bill C4 it's a bill again, I'm not going into the details, but what it says is it prevents parents from taking their children to psychologists to knock them out of being transgender. So like the kid identifies as transgender, and you take that kid to counseling to convince the kid that the kid's not transgender. With transgenderism, it kind of makes sense. No kid is born in the wrong body. But that's just an extension of I guess, previous laws that says you can't, if a kid comes out as gay, the parents can't go and take him to counseling to convince them that they're straight. And all I'm saying is, if you agree with that law to protect gay people, then you have to agree with the law to protect transgender. If you want to get rid of the law protecting transgenders, you gotta get rid of that law that removes the parental rights of deciding, in their mind, what's best for children. You can believe one or the other, but it's a schizophrenic belief, and I think the Conservative Party is losing a lot of credibility because they draw this line that's sort of artificial, and the underlying all of this is that the state is getting involved in parental issues. That's the main issue. The PPC, RB Ham, good morning, RB. The PPC is also for complete freedom of speech. Old lefties like me appreciate that. Yeah, I've been meaning to talk to you, RB. You call yourself a lefty, but you're not really a lefty. What we're talking about left, you're basically, you believe in some social services, but I guess you're right. You're an old lefty. So back in the day, like people who believed in, healthcare, welfare, certain other things, those categories, you would say then you're a lefty. But now, when we say left, we're talking about climate change. We're talking about DEI. We're talking about weaponized mass migration, transgenderism, gay pride protest, great gay pride parades in the street with people walking around naked. Um, and I'm not talking about you who came over to the PPC. So just stop calling yourself a lefty, bro. One more godless woman. I see feminism as a problem, but very few women would say such a thing. Yeah, the few times I try to bring it up, people get exceptionally angry, especially women. You have in the urban centers, you have women that are completely brainwashed. Like you ask them, why do you support feminism, and they cite, the Handmaid's Tale of Netflix. I'm like, that's a movie. Like, it's an adaptation of a book, but yeah, it's very difficult because they're 50%. Another reason is, when you capture a woman through feminism, you've now captured her husband as well, or her parents. Like that's two or three more voters. And it's the same thing with transgenderism. If you transition a kid in school, you've captured that two more voters because of the parents. Because parents love their kids, and they don't want to harm their kids. But you no longer have that trope of the knuckle dragging caveman barbarian, father who says like, no son of mine will be this, that, or the other. So now you got these soft kids that are running roughshod over their parents. Sorry, I'm always stuffy in the morning. Let's see, what else do we have? This is from Mr. Matt Alexander. I believe his son's name is Jason, the famous kid who stood up and had the red "Make Canada Great Again" hat, and he's evangelical, I believe, and he got kicked out of school. Let me get this out of the way. I had Matt on my show, not realizing who he was. And he comes on. I'm like, so tell me about yourself. And he's telling me about him and his son. I'm like, oh, crap. Not only do I know who you are, I actually met him in person. It's funny. So regarding these leaked texts again of this Conservative Party candidate MP, Matt says, remember when the Conservative Party opted to not oppose kids being gender mutilated in order to promote Pierre Poilievre? The whole party did, not just this MP. They cowered to Marxism and media at the cost of lives. That's where they stand. Choose friends wisely. This is what I'm saying as well. Man, we got it. It's like a word salad. I can't find a way to describe what's going on without using like triple negatives. Remember when the CPC opted to support kids being gender mutilated in order to promote Pierre Poilievre? The whole party did. Yeah, I don't know exactly when that happened, but obviously it happened at the Conservative Party convention. I go back to what I said. Like they are captured by this system. After doing one election for the People's Party, I see now that there is no political solution out of this because our problem isn't political, it's cultural. We have people who think here's how it works. Like if I go to a mother and I talk to her privately over the phone, for example, and I say, like, what are your concerns? She says she doesn't like the disrespect in the schools. She doesn't like that the teachers are hiding information from her. She doesn't like that the teachers are getting in between her and her child. And she'd tell me a story about how when she was young, She would walk in a room and she wouldn't eat until the parents started eating. If the parents said stop eating, she would stop eating. So she's saying how parents were God. She's talking about parental rights, and she's tiptoeing around the issue, which is transgender ideology in schools. She's too scared to use that word on a private conversation with me because she doesn't want to come across as mean. Because if there's even one kid in there that's identifies as a different gender, first of all, mom might hurt that kid's feelings, but most importantly, I think she doesn't want to teach her children how to hate. So she's worried that if she says transgenderism is wrong, her child might go and bully that kid. So they call this the weaponization of empathy, but like a woman's propensity to think with her emotions rather than with her reason is what's brought us to this point. And men are just not being men anymore. You know, I'm responsible for this too because I can't talk about this at dinner parties or anything. People would just ask me to leave, so you self censor. But most men have now adopted that view that woman had, where anything we do has to, first and foremost, it must not hurt anyone's feelings. Sometimes we say Canadians are too nice, but if you go in with that viewpoint, and your adversary, the ones on the left, the liberals, I guess in Canada, the progressives, they're using that against you because they don't give a damn. They don't give a damn about like not hurting our feelings. Man, they're stealing our lands through this Cowichan land ruling. They're harming your children through transgenderism. They're bringing in millions of immigrants, even though we don't want it, and they're destroying our culture. And if people stand up, they call them racists and white supremacists. So it's an asymmetric war, and if we to bring it back to what I was saying about this candidate, if you want to win this war, you got to change the culture. You can't vote your way out of this. What do we got next? Uh Here's another. I'm getting to the point of how this is related to Alberta. Let's see if there's any comments. Yeah, there is. Gary, baby steps to globalism. It started with affirmative action, then it became reverse discrimination. Here we are now dealing with Arctic apartheid. Yeah, you're right. It was affirmative action, and now we're calling it DEI. Feminism is, in a way, it is affirmative action. When I said earlier that the policies are schizophrenic, I was contrasting, you know, gender affirming care, whatever, removing parental rights for counseling children to detransition, and how it's an extension of removing parental rights to counsel, gay, lesbian, homosexual children to going back to being straight. It's an erosion of parental rights. Well, if you look at the women's rights movement, like they weaponized, what do you call it, affirmative action, DEI, to get their own sports and to get into sports. And now the transgendered community has done that to get into women's sports. And women they're trapped. They brought this, they started this, they used the law. I mean, I support women's sports, but they kind of used the law to carve this out. And now transgendered people are using the law to carve themselves in, and they're further trapped because women are turning to men. They're like, "Help us," and men are like, "Screw you! You took the kids, you took the house, you molested the family court system. You've institutionalized no fault divorce. All of you people have leaned into radical feminism. You're all miserable. All the women in these urban centers are just miserable, and they're not just miserable. They're angry, and I don't think they even know what they're angry at. They just wake up angry like I do when I'm hungover. JT. I try to explain this to the sheep with an analogy around the show Dragon's Den Shark Tank, where Kevin O'Leary is made out to be the bad guy for telling upcoming entrepreneurs to forget about a bad business idea in order to save them from abject failure rather than attempt to prop them up like others on the show do so as to not offend them. Who is truly the nice one? Yeah, I'm guessing people just hate Kevin O'Leary. One more godless woman. Teachers, the root of feminism and ignorantization. Yeah, but underneath the teacher, I had a fantastic economic advisor, and he gave me so much wisdom. And he goes, he went back to his I don't know, like 50-year high school reunion, and he said that a lot of the people there were teachers now, and he's looking at like the NDP unions, teachers unions. He called it an indoctrination facility. Like the union is hijacking the system through the universities, because before, like if you understood history or you had a history major, you could go be a teacher. Now to be a teacher, you have to go to university. You got to get an education degree, and which the teachers unions control and heavily influence. And that's the gatekeeper. That's where they create the content for how to indoctrinate the future youth. Gary, I also still consider myself an old classic liberal. I still have the dream. I don't know what that uh, emoji is supposed to be. Yeah, but like you can't. These political parties, they hijack these words and then they beat the meaning out of it, and you can't use them anymore. Like the Conservative Party, they're not conservative. If you talk to old school conservatives, I mean like 80-year-old conservatives, they oppose obviously feminism, but they opposed sodomy. Like we're talking people that are against homosexuality. Like these would be what you would call knuckle dragging conservatives. But at the very least, you should go back to the family unit. The Conservative Party, this convention showed they're not conservative. Same thing with the Liberal Party. Like the Liberal Party is a party of bigots. If you think differently, they attack you viciously. So you can't even use a word like classical liberal unless you want to put a preamble to every opening statement explaining what classical liberalism is. Boiling the frog. You've inspired me to make a coffee instead of going back to bed. You could also have a beer. Uh, oh, this is, I put the wrong, well, not that I put the wrong one on, but I wanted to move this up a bit. So this one, Mark Slapinski, I saw this yesterday. You know what? Before getting to this, let me play a video of Dominic Chinelli of the BC Prosperity Project, and then it'll you know sort of explain everything else.
Well, something. I go back to my parents. They immigrated here in 1964 from Italy. Right? They came from the old country. No, they didn't bring pasta with them, but they brought a suitcase each and $100. They came on the promise of a better future. Come to Canada for a better future. Help us build the country, right, and make it your home. Right now, it doesn't feel like their home. But what ended up happening is when it came down to, they assimilated to the Canadian way, right? Yes, we had a lot of different nationalities here. We had a lot of different things.
So a couple of things to point out. He said the question was, what does it mean to be Canadian? And the three of us, we kind of fumbled. I just said, you're brain dead urban liberal, but he said the Canadian dream, it used to be you can come here and you can be part of what we are, Canadian, and you build the country. That's what he's saying. Like the Canadian dream is you come here and you build something in the country.
But they had to go through classes to become Canadian citizens, to have the right to vote and all this other stuff.
That's also true. The assimilation. That's the other part of his response. There was a thing called being Canadian. We were not a post nationalist country. Yes, we were a young country, but the people that were there, the settlers, they made what Canada was. So they built it, and then they made this concept of Canadianism. And then the people that came, they came promising to build, and they would help build. And in return, the original Canadians would let them live there. But they said, you have to become us. We're not going to become you. None of this mass migration nonsense.
Right. And they had a prouder day becoming a Canadian citizen than they did when they had their kids sometimes, I felt. Right. And I don't think people have that pride anymore. Right. People don't have that pride to be Canadian because nobody can identify what is Canadian. All these migrants and immigrants that are coming to Canada now. Right. I'm not talking about the ones that came here years ago to help build this country. Like my dad's a bricklayer, a mason, and he built schools that we needed. He built shopping plazas that we needed, high-rise buildings, office buildings. Like I remember driving through Hamilton and Toronto because I grew up in Ontario, and we would drive on the highway or down the roads. My dad would be pointing out, I built that, I built that, I worked on that corner of that building, I worked on that corner of that building, right? And that was very prideful. He was proud of what he did.
So he used the word pride. This is really important. When you have agency, you take pride in your work. So the dream was you come to Canada and we let you build it. We won't get in your way. After 3-4 decades of regulations, people can't build anything. The only people that can build are the big companies, and everything's getting consolidated, and nobody has any pride. No one has ownership or stake in a country. E. Michael Jones, he put out a post. He said, "Communism is the pus when capitalism gets diseased." When regulations are introduced, and we're still calling it capitalism, 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 when it's anything but. This isn't free market. This isn't individuals working amongst each other. Capitalists, communists, the NDP, the Greens, they step in. They're like, it's not working. We need to nationalize everything, which is the opposite of what you need, because that's more of the problem, more regulations. But this is, it's going to tie into First Nations now.
Did what he created, or he went to a school and says, those kids have a school because I helped build that. And we don't have people coming here now, bringing their trades, bringing their skills to build. What we're doing is we're cutting out all of our natural resources. We're cutting out all of our factories. We have mills shutting down. We got car industries dropping, all this other stuff. And like, what are people coming to do? What are they building here in Canada? Nothing. They're stripping the resources and they're shipping them overseas. They're tearing, like BC.
I think it's worse than that. It's not that the people that are coming here are stripping the resources. It's the state that's stripping the resources. At least if the people, imagine if everybody had a plot of land and you grow some timber and you sell the timber, at least they're doing something. But right now, this is like Rome when Caesar marched across the Rubicon. People, they're displaced off their land, the farmland, and they're just hobbled together in the city centers, and they're getting their dole of grain every day. uh, People, especially men, but like people need to work. If they don't work and build something, they feel worthless. Like the value of a man comes from actually building something, even if that something is, I don't know, growing tomatoes or just anything. But having control over your life, and I'm sure it's the same with women. Um, that's how you get value in life.
For one, is tearing apart British Columbia. Like the forestry industry in British Columbia will be absolutely gone, and it's going to be raw logs that are going to be shipped overseas, and they're going to do all their stuff over there because all the sawmills are shutting down. Right, we're going to start seeing pulp mills shutting down. We're seeing it all disappearing, and it's being done. And now what they're saying, oh well, we're in partnership with First Nations and all this other stuff. If you know anything that's going on with the First Nations, they're
So the reason I put this in here, I can't believe I have to do this. It's not the actual people, like the First Nations people. They are as powerless as the rest of us. It's this grift, this machine of taking taxpayer money, partnering with maybe a First Nations chief, and stealing that money, giving it to the mid level guys, the Liberal Party candidates, the lawyers, all these regulators. That's what we're attacking here. But what I'm noticing, and I'm going to get to a couple other posts that have come up in the last few days. They're pissed off now. They're like, they have reached their breaking point, and they don't care if it sounds like it's racist. They don't want to squander their children's future, their own wealth. They don't want to lose their land just because they have to be nice, and that's what Dominic is pointing out here. The First Nations bands, they're completely mismanaged. Like, why would you, in the middle of all of this, why would you want to partner with these First Nations bands and add even more complexity to actually getting stuff done?
they're in bed with the Chinese as well. I hate to say it. You got David Eby involved with Chinese. You got coastal First Nations involved, to stop this and that, and these are things that really harm people.
All right, I guess we're at the end there. I'm gonna go to the comments, but I'll bring up the next screen. What are we at? 9. There we go. Let's see what we got. We got Doug here. Let's see. DKAS, DKAS, DCAS. Thank you for reposting the stream. Doug Bebb, are you looking at the chat from Substack? Of course, Doug. You think I wouldn't look at the Substack chat? Just give me 1 second. I've never actually looked at the chat. How do you even look at the live stream? Okay, here we go. Here's the link. Live streaming. I don't want to listen. Where's the chat? I guess I have to keep it open. Yeah, I've never done this, Doug. To look at the Substack chat. Please forgive me, Doug. I don't want to do this on a live stream. So if you could just put the question, and then from now on, I promise I'll keep an eye on the Substack chat. But it doesn't show it all the previous chats. I'd have to watch the whole thing until the 35-minute mark. The beer I had for breakfast wasn't bad, so I had one more for dessert. Johnny Cash. My favorite one is who's the author of Old Man in the Sea? He goes, one martini is just right, two is too many, three is not enough. JT, it cannot be offensive to tell people who came here they must assimilate. Yeah, but it is, fortunately. Or take this. It's offensive to say that if somebody comes to Canada, they're different. It shouldn't be offensive. I always tell people when they say, where are you from? I say, I'm Canadian, but I was born in Iran, or I'm Iranian Canadian. It's just, they look at me, they're like, well, your ancestors, they don't look like they worked for the Hudson's Bay Company. The same thing if you or if Doug went down to Iran, if you go to a dinner party, let's say Doug married an Iranian woman, they'd be like, oh, Mr. Bebb, where are you from? They wouldn't say, oh, well, you're Iranian. They'd be like, oh, it's that the Canadian guy. But it's just an observation thing. You're not insulting anyone. JP Berg said Canada is no longer a country; it is a crime scene. I love that. Yeah, yeah. Dale Richardson is the guy I was thinking about. We were on a private chat with a bunch of these Americans, these election integrity guys, and Dale said the same thing. He's like, basically, when I do my podcast, I treat Canada like a crime scene, which it is, but it like we're talking. Post World War Germany or rape of Nanking type crime scene. There's criminal acts having gone on everywhere. Ike remotely. Good morning, Payment and viewers of the channel. Good morning, Ike. Tuning in from Lloydminster, Saskatchewan, Alberta. Good morning. Gary, the dream. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of the skin, but the content of their character. I didn't know you had 4 children, Gary. My mother shared it with me. Yeah. They've made some really good like dance songs to his speeches as well as JFK's speeches, and it's pretty interesting. Especially as I have a dream one. Andre, thank you for reposting the stream. Good morning, Tim. The East Coast is dead now, and the West has them on life support. What a mess. Yeah, another way, Tim, you could think of it like the East Coast is like cancer, and that cancer is trying to spread to the West Coast through Alberta and Edmonton, and that's kind of my fear that this referendum thing doesn't go through. And even if it does go through, if the cancer's already spread, it's in those 2 urban centers. Like the West Coast can be like, all right, gentlemen, the East Coast, we no longer legally have title, but unofficially we can control them through the banking and the regulatory and the government bureaucracy. Indigenous industrial complex. Yeah, I try not to use the word complex because ever since Eisenhower used it, everybody uses it in every context. I've heard it about the homelessness complex in BC as well. So you say like, think of the homeless, and then you hear that ching ching sound, and taxpayer money gets transferred to these useless bureaucrats. I mean, I kind of get it. Like if you got a indigenous basket weaving degree from UBC, and you come out with $75,000 debt, the Liberals have to give you something. The BC NDP has to give you something. So they create these stupid positions, and you and I pay for them. And when they say 25% of Canada is working for the public sector, that's like in every household. If you had somebody that was severely disabled and those three other people had to pay for that. That's what a government public sector employee is, somebody with a severe disability. It might not be completely fair, like like a doctor technically does provide some service, but we don't have doctors in Canada. Mark reposted the stream. Thank you, Doug. No problem. I moved over to X. Thank you, Doug. I understand that the Chinese are in cahoots with the global organizations like Tides to use the First Nations through funding to lock up our resources so they can be denied to Japan and Taiwan. Yeah, this whole thing is a mess. Like once upon a time, we had media journalists, and they would go in and they'd do the hard work, and then they nicely package the story, and they would present it to you and me. But now everybody is lying because CBC, with the government's going around giving millions of dollars to people to spread propaganda. So I don't know. What you just said is one of the only arguments I've heard that makes sense with the Chinese, because I never understood who really runs this country. Is it the Chinese? Is it the Americans? Or is it the British through the crown? But I guess the Chinese have found some way to get in, and it would make sense. Yeah, it's not that they're just doing it for money. They want to lock Japan and Taiwan out. We've kind of shit the bed so badly that I just don't see any way out of this without the U.S. coming in, taking over, and saying we will guarantee you access to markets, and we'll give you a path to break these contracts these ironclad contracts that have been written with China. Okay, I want to get to this. Take some coffee. I came across this guy last night, and I have no idea who he is, but this is why I said I'm doing a live stream. So, Mark, you see this picture. You got a conservative guy and a liberal woman, and they're shaking hands. What he's saying is, he's basically they've hijacked what J.P. Berg, my co-host, has said, is that there is no left and right. It's us versus them. So in this case, the them would be Mark Slapinski, or these two jerks in this picture. My name is Mark Slapinski. Seems like a made-up name. Lately, I've been mending bridges with the left. We can put politics aside and agree that Maple MAGA, Alberta separatists. Okay, let's get to that in a second. Lately, I've been mending bridges with the left. No, we don't want to drift further to the left. We want to go back to the center. We want property rights. We want parental rights. We want home ownership or land ownership. And we need to defund these cities and move people back outside of the cities. So it's not like some Judge Dredd dystopian future in these mega cities. So that's my first concern. Then he goes, we can put politics aside and agree that Maple MAGA, that's, everybody watching this, I guess, would be Maple MAGA, because we believe in God-given rights, Alberta separatists, Putin lovers, and anti-trans bigots have no place in Canadian politics. So, like, we gotta go through this again. Maple MAGA is basically saying Canada will not be American. The legacy of 1783 with the 50,000 United Empire Loyalists flooding, fleeing, infesting the Eastern Canada, that's going to live on. Canada will not be America. That 49th parallel, it might be an imaginary line, but we will make it real for another 100 years, where people down south of that border, they have rights. They have a connection with God. It's just them and God. It's them and the land, and they can build and they can be prosperous. And that's what Donald Trump is doing. Up here, it's all about the crown. It's all about consolidation. It's all about corporations. It's all about being safe. Remember our motto, peace, order, and good governance. We don't really have any of that, but that, if that was to work, you would have safety. Whereas down south, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's more individualistic. That's what he's talking about. Alberta separatists. I think I unfortunately might have not have put it in that clip of Dominic Cinelli, but if you go on Substack and watch that interview we did with him, he said these 7 social media influencers that have tied themselves to the Conservative Party, he suspects they're going to start turning on Alberta separatists, and Pleb has already started doing that, or maybe it's Mario. We'll go over that in a second. The Conservative Party needs Alberta. Without Alberta, the Conservative Party disintegrates. And it's interesting. Like, they are pushing Alberta away by lying to them. They're saying we believe in parental rights, which is what this is. Anti-trans bigots is a maybe it's a dog whistle, but it's a hidden way of saying we will remove parental rights. But they're telling the Alberta people we believe in parental rights, we believe in property rights, but they don't believe in any of this stuff. So they're pushing the Alberta separatists away, Alberta people voters away, and now the party is facing an existential crisis where it's probably going to fold. It's going to fold up anyway. When half the country comes out and doesn't it indirectly supports the People's Party, your party is in trouble. It's usually only like 5% of the country that supports it. So people are steaming mad, and this guy thinks that just by alienating the separatists, he's going to win. Behind this is probably Mark Carney and CSIS, that they don't want to lose Alberta, and Trump and the CIA, that they're probably trying to cleave off Alberta. But as I mentioned, like Maple MAGA, the problem that the government, the powers that be in Canada face right now is that they are like the Islamic Republic of Iran. They don't want to give up power, but they can't come up with one legitimate argument um, in opposition to them leaving. Like the Iranians have mismanaged the economy. They have destroyed cohesion in society. People don't have freedom. Everyone's miserable. And people are saying, like, what's the worst thing that could happen if we just went back to being a monarchy? And the government in Iran can't give a valid response. And it's the same thing with 51st State. You go to the government, you're like, if we joined the US, what would get worse? And they'd be like, oh, there'd be guns. Well, like, okay, that's better. That's not worse. I mean, look, they're disarming us right now. They'll be like, oh, I don't know, you wouldn't have healthcare. Well, we don't have healthcare right now. Like they got First Amendment, like that's a plus. They have a bigger economy. That's a plus. Their dollar is stronger than ours. That's a plus. We wouldn't have all these trade barriers. That's another plus. And wherever you land on that argument, like if you don't want to join the U.S. and your only argument is, I love this country, it's not enough, because the country doesn't love you, because the country's been trying to kill you for the last 6 years. So that's Alberta separatists, Putin lovers, like that. That's just a reach. But again, I think these guys, these strategists, they're sitting in a room in Ottawa, and they don't do what I do, where I got a fancy degree and I grew up in Vancouver, but I'm actually talking to the ordinary people. And I remember the people that went to the Freedom Convoy. They got labeled as getting money from MAGA and from Vladimir Putin. Both of them turned out to be. I think we got no money from Russia, a very limited money from the Americans. So this guy is a moron, is what I'm saying. He's picking the worst time. We're already making peace with Putin. We never supported the Ukraine war, but that was just thrust upon us. Our tax dollars were stolen. Now that country it's done. It's going to lose the war. And we're no longer complicit in killing, lots and lots of Ukrainian men. We are complicit in a genocide of the young men in Ukraine. Genocide. So people like this guy that supported that war, they've dragged us into this genocide. So that's on the one hand. On the other hand, these protests in Minneapolis, money is coming from a whole bunch of Canadians. I don't know. Does Mark think that the people are even dumber than I think they are? Like, does he think that these people are completely blind? They don't have access to social media? Does he think Bill C9 has already gone through? Anti-trans bigots. Like, why would you put this out after what we witnessed from the Conservative Party convention? Canadians, they're fed up. They've reached their breaking point. If he had released this statement before the convention and before that row between the CPC and the PPC, you could make some argument. But did he actually release it before it? No, he released it after it. He's just an idiot. They have no place in Canadian politics. This is what they're signaling here is that I heard this during the campaign trail. We don't want American-style politics in Canada. What is American-style politics? It's energized activity in political campaigns. So people get behind their team and they support that team, and they're they do outrageous things like yell at each other, scream at each other. They try to put out memes and everything. we've already gone to that territory. Like the with Antifa and all that in Canada, we've already gone in there. And with the Conservative Party bringing on these social media influencers to run cover to try to hold on to the right of center base while they drift to the left, I think they've already done that. They've already imported American style politics. And it's not even the Conservative Party to blame. It's the goddamn brain dead, elbows up liberals. When they said Orange man bad, and they got everyone hyper emotional and they stole that election, we entered American style politics. So I'm giving the conservatives a pass on this one. I guess I have to go to the questions, man. That was a huge rant. Man, I always promise to do these things in like 5 minutes, and it goes on for an hour. Flip flop, Mark. Yeah, JT. Well, Mark is pretty smart. He's kind of like a Clinton. You know, he doesn't have an ideology. He just, you know, he's a bureaucrat, and he'll do whatever the king tells him, which is what the Liberal Party needs right now. I don't have to like them, but you know, Justin Trudeau took the party so far to the left. You saw a lot of these old school crooked politicians, liberal politicians coming out and saying, "Guys, this is wrong. You know, we are liberals. We steal money. We steal a lot of money, and we tank the country. We make it worse. But we can't keep stealing money if they're, you know, we're drifting so far into this ideology that we can't hold on to power. The most important thing for them is power, and with that power, they get money." Doug. LNG shipped from Prince Rupert is the fastest and cheapest route and has other advantages, from liquefaction at low ambient temperature, a complete moneymaker that was wrecked by First Nations, bought off with money from Soros, etc. Yeah, it's. I'm just tired of blaming either the people at the bottom or in the middle. I like to blame the people at the top, the ones that are principally responsible for this. And my view is that's us. You know, like, we made the decision to not be mean, not be racist, so we would turn a blind eye to anything involving the First Nations. And you get opportunists like Soros and, you know, people, the liberal candidate running in my riding, you know, anybody that's involved in this machine. This, they called it the First Nations complex, but this grift machine where you're stealing taxpayer money because there's the word First Nations in it. They're, you know, they're just opportunists, and at the end of the day, it's all our fault. But you know this stuff better than me. I'm sure you're right about whatever happened in Prince Rupert, but it's sad. You know, Doug, I have an uncle, and when the revolution happened in '79, I was asking him because I never understood it. I'm like, how could how could you support these Muslims? Like, why did you support them? You're not Muslim. Nobody in my family's Muslim. Nobody went to mosque. Everybody's an alcoholic in my family, going back like 5 generations. And I'm like, why would you support the Muslims? And he goes, well, they came in and they promised to nationalize oil, and that energy would be free, water would be free, education would be free, healthcare would be free, and they promised all these things. And I asked him, you know, when did you realize that you were lied to? And he goes, 2 years in. He goes, 2 years in, we realized it, but it was too late. And from then, so 1981 to today, every day he wakes up and he apologizes to his children. He said, I'm very sorry for what I've done. Like, you know, you're suffering under this regime because I was foolish and, you know, I made a mistake. And he goes out there to protest, even puts himself in harm's way, because he says, I owe it to my children. This is my fault. Why do we not see that from Canadians? I don't see any Canadians going out there and saying, you know, Jimmy, the reason that you can't afford a home is because I was wrong and I didn't oppose this, you know, First Nations blocking the Prince Rupert LNG shipment. You don't see that. Like, Canadians, they're not ready to accept that they've made a mistake, and I I just, I feel like we need to do that. I mean, you and I, Doug, like we've done that indirectly because you ran for the PPC, I ran for the PPC, so we've sacrificed. But there are other people that are just sleepwalking through life, that they're responsible for this as well. Clown World, oh my gosh, I just got here and you're quoting Slapinski. Who is this guy? Wasn't there a TV show about a detective and a teamed up with a dog? Somebody got reincarnated as a dog and they're going out there solving crime. Was it Pachinski? Pochinski. I thought it sounds like Slapinski. Gary, it's also why the WEF, Young Global Leaders, has been meeting in China. WEF is a foreign adversary. Its members are spies. Yeah, I mean, if I, if I was daydreaming and of a peaceful future, PPC gets in, or you get independence in, you take over the government, you declare the WEF and the UN a terrorist organization, you like raid their offices, grab all of the employees working in there, and you sentence them to life in prison for treason. I was watching Catherine Austin Fitz on an interview with Mel K. And Catherine Austin Fitz, in passing, she mentioned like the plan was always to strip mine the US, take its resources, all the money and the wealth, and move it to China, which they kind of did. And you build up China, and then they go and they take over China. That was their plan all along. And Catherine Austin Fitz, she turns around and she's like, which she goes, it never made any sense to me. Like, why would they think that this would work? Like, this is like, Gary, I'll give you an example. Imagine if I have I don't know. I got $10 million worth of gold bullion in my home. Whatever, 100 gold bars, and I transfer these slowly to you into your home, and with the intention that one day I'll move over and I'll use your home as a storage facility, and then you just take the gold anyway. Like, what the hell was I thinking? Like, I never understood their long term strategy of how they were going to control China after they basically built it up. Thank you for the repost, Clown World. One more godless woman. Intentional falsification of land surveys is fraud, and if it can be proven on one township, then it invalidates all land surveys and all land titles attached to the surveys. Fraud vitiates all. Yeah, I don't know exactly what you're referring to, but I guess fruit of the poison tree, or sure. Squirrel nuts. In the end, your education doesn't mean anything. Yeah, well, most of the education is useless anyway. It's not real world experience. Where, do you remember in elementary school they used to teach back in the day, like what local foods you could eat, like what berries to eat, what mushrooms not to eat? That's kind of education that you need. Hunting, like how to hunt animals and how to skin them, that's another one. Fishing would be another one. Farming would be another one. And as I'm quickly realizing, building stuff like carpentry, I tried to build a frame using some 2x8s or 2x4s for my firewood. Holy crap, man! That thing just kept falling over. I was like, "Screw this! I'm just going to Home Depot and I'm going to buy a shed." Another thing, I did a live stream with David Gardner. David Gardner is he's out in, I believe, Nova Scotia or Newfoundland, and he used to be a nurse, and he went back into nursing school, and he said he got through it like 6 months course, 2 weeks left, he just quit. He couldn't handle, and he goes, and he just came out and he was honest. He's like, there's just too many women, and the women are just crazy. Like he'd come in and he'd sit in one seat one day, and the next day he would sit in another seat, and they'd be like, why did you change your seats? He's like, what do you mean, why did I change it? It's a college, I can do whatever I want. So they call him into a meeting, and they gotta have, like, why did you do that? Why did you respond in that way? Why did you raise your voice? And he goes, he's constantly getting attacked by the women. And at the end, he was really frustrated. He's like, you know what? Just go into trades. It's just all men. It's easier to deal with. Like if you're in trades, you got all these dudes. All they want to know is how to work so that they can make money, and they just want to leave and go have a beer anyway. They're not there for drama. But I thought that was interesting. I always thought it was. We all know it's because it's gone woke, but he goes, the women have completely taken over nursing. Clown World. Ukraine lost the war a long time ago. I never and still don't consider Putin as a threat. Yeah, sure. But what matters is, what do the majority of the people think? Remember when the war started in 2022, they started putting up Ukraine flags? And it was very difficult to speak out against that. And I remember, I got into one of my friends got into an argument with somebody on the left. They were talking about the Maidan coup. They're talking about that incident in one of the eastern regions where the Nazis went in and they started beating people up. They pushed them into a building. They set the building on fire. If anybody jumped out, they would beat them to death. There's many cases of rape of the Russian-speaking women there. And my friend pointed this out, and the guy just turned around and said, that's Russian propaganda. This is what happens when the government lies to you, and and they believe the government lies, and everything you say is it's the lies of the other government. And it's, now fast forward, you got millions of Ukrainians dead. Nobody cares. They just move on to the next project, which might be Iran, and you'll just find more useful idiots from my fellow Iranians who will support that war, and then you get a couple more Iranian dead, and on we go. JT Payman, Mark came out at the height of COVID agreeing that anti-vaxxers should be jailed. Then he started trying to assert himself as conservative, a chameleon. Yeah, he is. He is. But many people thought anti-vaxxers should be jailed. Many. And this is why I will never support the Conservative Party. I don't give a damn if we get another liberal government until the Conservative Party cleans house and they come out and they apologize for saying more vaccines faster. There's just no point. I mean, this is a hollow. As Maxime Bernier said, they are morally and intellectually bankrupt. Carney plays both sides of the fence. That's the problem. It's a problem for you and me. It's a solution for the Liberal Party. He's managing it much better than Trudeau did. One more godless woman. People are particular about the type of fraud that they will accept to maintain the system. Give me an example. One more godless woman, and I'll read it out. I don't quite follow. Squirrel Nuts, Evil Banker, Slimy Car Salesman, sure. Doug Bebb, J.K. Rowling. I don't know what you're talking about. Squirrel Nuts. Like I keep. No, are you talking about Old Man in the Sea? It wasn't J.K. Rowling. Squirrel Nuts. Like I keep saying, the quickest way to market for oil and gas out of Alberta and Saskatchewan is to pipeline into USA to port and export it with rented docks. I don't understand oils. I'm not an oil guy, so I'll refrain. One more godless woman. So-called human errors are made on legal documents all the time and accepted as such, but the errors never have to be correct. I've actually interviewed you. I believe you're a supporter of natural rights. You do the all caps human. Uh, I'm slowly drifting to your position where I say like the purpose of life has to be you get a plot of land and you just live off the land and you raise family, and the goal of human life should be to be as self-sufficient as possible. Like, I mean, you need electricity, obviously, but get your water, get your septic, get your food supply as much as you can, and then try to make contacts in the community and trade for things like blue jeans, shoes, ammunition, hooch. Garbage in, garbage out. Doug Bebb, was not the Savak under Mossadegh a pretty nasty operation? Yeah, I got a funny story about that. My dad was before the revolution, he was a campaign manager. He's just helping people with their political campaigns. And Savak, which was their version of like the RCMP, CSIS, KGB, they would come to him and they'd look at the list. They're like, this guy can't run, that guy can't run, this other guy can't run. So they would disqualify the candidates that my father could run. And then to get back at Savak, my father would stuff the ballots for the pro Savak candidates so they wouldn't win. He's like, oh, well, if you're not going to let me run my candidates, I'm not going to let your candidates win. But I think they were pretty ruthless. But it's always hard to tell. Uh, People they tend to blow everything out of proportion. There were some torture, and they were trained by Israeli agents. I wouldn't say it was under Mossadegh; it was under the king during the time of Mossadegh. Um, but what's funny, when Jimmy Carter turned his back on the king, the Shah, and he was overthrown, and the mullahs came in, and they were actually worse than the Shah. The lesson that Ronald Reagan learned was, if you're going to regime change, make sure that who you bring in is not worse than who was there before. One more godless woman. Alcoholics go to meetings, Payman. The rest of us are just good at drinking. Yeah. Who was it? Charlie Sheen. He said, I'm not an alcoholic. Alcoholics need drinks. I already have one. He's got to hold on to a drink. JT. Canadians en masse do not acknowledge there's even a problem yet, and the fifth estate perpetuates it. Yeah, they lie. It's just propaganda. Squirrel nuts. Canadians are brainwashed beyond belief. It's absurd. I finally have some hope, as I think that it feels like they reached their breaking point with this Conservative Party convention, with the pro-trans agenda policy that they tried to pass, and with some more people coming out this week. I'm noticing they're talking against the First Nations as a whole, not individually, but this grift. So they might be reaching their breaking point. But like I especially the educated ones. Like if you talk to accountants, if you talk to your lawyer or your accountant or your banker or I don't know your financial planner, your doctor, these people they're absolutely on board with this all of this leftist ideology. Andre Milosh, the PPC is elected. You must be dreaming. Yeah, it's. I mean, I criticize them heavily on PST, Philosopher's Stone Teddy Bear. Like they have to. Andre and I, we ran for the People's Party, and we tried to help them. We're like, listen, we're here. We have skill sets. Andre, he has business experience. He worked in the energy sector for Hydro Quebec. He knows how to do business plans. He knows how to think strategically and write strategy documents. They wouldn't use us. And we're not asking to take over the party. We're like, we're here. Use us. Give us a social media account. We can manage that. Let's set up a communication strategy so all the candidates every morning they have like a scrum, a half an hour, figure out what's going on, what are the topics to cover, how should we message. They did nothing, and they're still now they've given their social media account to somebody who's I call them a toddler, but if you go through the social media, it's just attacking the Conservative Party. That's not going to win you votes. I want them to win. I'm aligned. Their views are aligned with mine, but they're not going to win unless they get serious. Organizations like the UN and WEF should have never been allowed to form as they have. Yes, yeah. I mean, it's a good thing that Donald Trump is getting out of it. They withdrew from like half or three quarters of the major organizing bodies of the UN. And the UN put out a statement. They're like, "Help! We need money. If America pulls out, we have no money." Oh, that's too bad. George Soros and all the other globalists have to go steal money some other way. When the government, Purdy, when the government bureaucrats convince people that the motherhood issues and invading your bedroom figuratively is okay, your society has hit bottom. Is it repairable at this time? I was talking to Chelsea Hillier, and she told a story about when she was young, like she grew up in a really poor neighborhood, or they didn't have enough money to put uh, fluoride in the water supply. So what they would do is they would send nurses every like 6 months or whatever to bring with like a fluoride swab, and they give it the kids, swoosh this around your mouth for a few seconds and then spit it out. And I said, if you contrast that with Iran, where Iran is like 100 years behind or 50 years behind the West, like we're not yet at that level of indoctrination. Like if you went to the government, and this is in the 80s now I'm talking about, and you said to the government, we should go into schools and give this medicine to other people's children and instruct them on how to apply that medicine and how to consume it. The probably the person in the government would beat the crap out of you, be like, what the hell are you talking about? What business is it of yours to interfere with other people's children, you child molester? But they wouldn't understand the concept. They'd be like, why would the government do that? It's not our child. It's somebody else's child, somebody else's responsibility. But whereas in Canada, the children, they've almost been adopted by the state now. The child is the state's responsibility. Another way, Melanie Bennett, I interviewed her. She's big on just Marxism in the education system. And she said basically they're treating parents like baby factories. So the mother and the father, they produce the child. The mother, delivers the child. And then after that, you could raise it for a few months or years, but you eventually hand it over to the state, and the state then builds up that child. Squirrel nuts. When the evil comes for all, what good is your government brainwashed education? It's not good for anything. Payman the carpenter, stick to politics. Yeah, well, I'm not good at either. Squirrel nuts. Your current government dictates the education your country receives. Imagine that, Canada. Take away industrial arts, home economics, trades, no doctors. Hilarious. Again, go watch that interview we did with Dominic Cinelli. He's a little verbose, but there's kernels of truth in there. And he said, uh, imagine how great it would be if we returned the school boards back to the municipalities instead of centralizing it in the provincial government. And then the municipalities can just figure out what they want to teach their children. That would be just an instant overnight fix. If you want to get transgender ideology out of schools, just kick it down to the municipalities like how it used to be in the 90s. Squirrel nuts, I complain there's no doctors because you're not producing anything but couch potatoes. Yeah. I see it was a two-part thing. Yeah. Again, Catherine Austin Fitts, when she did that interview with Mel K, she said, I can't remember the numbers, but she said when America let China into the World Trade Organization in like the 90s, the IQ was, let's say, 104. And today, America's IQ is like 90, 96, 97. Like it's dropped a couple of basis points. Whereas in China, it's gone up because America, like the education system has failed miserably and is failing miserably in Canada. You're not producing engineers. The whole purpose of university is just to produce engineers. Engineers are like elite commando carpenters, right? Like a carpenter builds a cabinet shelf, an engineer builds an entire bridge. But then the left got in, and the whole DEI. Why is it that only smart people should go to university? What about the jock? What about the kid that doesn't apply himself? And you got these basket weaving degrees. That was in Odessa. Yeah, I don't know what was. Not sure what was in Odessa. Sorry. Clown World. I live in the man. There's so many comments. I live in the middle of nowhere, and those Ukraine flags came out at the beginning of the war. Virtue signaling. All those flags are gone now. Yeah, they. If you remember in the April election, they changed. It went from Ukraine flag to the Canadian flag, and I don't know. We'll see what happens. Maybe now it's the Iranian, monarchist flag, as my friend Andre always says. Andre Milosh. They changed the SIM card. Like you push out an update to the liberal followers, and they just they believe in something new the next day. Rio G. Slipinski has been around for a decade. You mean the show about the crime solving dog, or the idiot shit poster? This guy here. Land survey fraud. Again, you got to put some more context. More godless woman. JT, 100% trades, as grueling as they can be, are many places of sanctum at the same time in today's crazy world. Yeah, just get a trade, move into a small town, and I don't know, stock up for the apocalypse. Doug Bebb. The J.K. Rowling quote was after that one. It was prompted by Slipinski's comment about what does and does not belong in Canadian politics. Fair enough. Gary, on a political scale, would Islam be considered progressive, liberal, or conservative? That's a good question. I would imagine hyper conservative. I have to think about that. I could answer it in a different way. Canada and Iran, the Islamic Republic of Iran, are exactly mirror opposites of each other, but they're both extremes. So in Iran, it's extreme masculine, and it's gone to a hyper masculine ideology, where women, if they don't cover their hair, you whip them or beat them or stone them or whatever, and a woman is half the worth of a man. Canada, we're hyper feminine society, where if you don't encourage transgenderism, and I'm not like, this isn't even tolerating it anymore, it's encouraging it, endorsing it, and exporting it, you'll go to jail. It's, we're feminine, they're masculine. That kind of answers your question. Ramanda, thanks for sharing the stream. One more godless woman. One falsified land survey encroaches on the adjacent portion of a land, invalidating all land surveys, which invalidates the title lease. This moves across the land with domino effect. No crown land. Yeah, I doubt judges would agree with you. I'd love that if the crown land was opened up to the people. I had Bathsheba Vanderberg on yesterday. She's the attorney of Helen Gruss, and I just kept asking her the most basic questions, like, how the hell is Helen Gruss even? What is she being charged for? Like, what is the argument? Because she just did her job, right? And apparently, the argument is misconduct, conduct unbecoming of a police officer. So they're saying you brought the police department in disrepute for, I don't know, investigating infant deaths. And then I asked her, I'm like, yeah, but like, how are these judges like as corrupt as these judges are, as ideological as they are, they're activists. I get it, but they have to somehow justify it. They still have to pretend like they're good people, like they're good judges, and they're doing their job, the way they're supposed to. And I kept asking her and asking her and asking her. She evaded my questions. She wouldn't answer. And then finally she answered it. She said, uh, there's got, she said, like, there has to be a reason, but I can't think of any. So the only thing I can think of is evil. These people are evil. Like so what, the judges are evil. They'll never agree with you. Remanded question. What riding do you think PPC should at least focus their volunteers on funding on? I was never good at this. Like, some people are good at looking at the maps and figuring out, previous results. I'm more like hit the ground running. Let somebody else, some bean counter, do that. So I don't know. You would have to figure. I mean, look at where the Reform Party did well. Look at places where there's a lot of conservative parties. You might want to look at where independents did really well. I would stay away from the urban centers. They're lost cause for many reasons. Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba. Apparently, the Maritime provinces, they're a write-off as well. They're always voting red. I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I always criticize the PPC for failing as a party. So they didn't have a strategy. What you're asking for is a part of that strategy, but they never had a marketing team. They never really clearly defined their vision. They should have softened the language of the policy points on the website. When you upload profile biographies of your candidates, you should upload it all at once, run it through ChatGPT, and say, make this so it's written in a similar voice. Again, you should have daily meetings where candidates can bring up serious issues very briefly, but you should be able to say, like, this story about Maxime Bernier's Florida home is gaining traction. What should we message? How do we counter it? And then you want to have a positive message for the future. How the PPC never really defined how they were going to save the country, because they didn't really know where it was going to go, and it was left up to the candidates to do that, and it's not really fair. The other day, I saw Michael Bader in a room after that post was made by the PPC social media account, and Just Me Jamie, again, good friend, she was grilling him, which is her job, right? She's supposed to be adversarial. She's like, "This is wrong. What do you have to say for this? Do you think that this is appropriate? Do you think that are you going to tell Max to take it down?" And Michael didn't know how to deal with it, because you as a candidate, you can't criticize the party. The correct thing would be for the party to come out and put a statement, and to reach out to all the candidates and say, listen, headquarters has made, just if they ask you about this, say headquarters has made a statement. I understand why they put out the post. I in some ways I agree with it, and others I don't, but it is what it is, and it's moved on. Let's move on. That's how a party would support their candidates, but they didn't. And Michael Bader had to go out there and try to defend something that he probably didn't even know about, because the story was it was fresh at the time. Squirrel nuts. So are Liberals and NDP witches and demonic people? I just watched a documentary about witchcraft, and Victoria is a major hub of Edmonton and Calgary are recruiting hard and growing. Toronto and Montreal is an overflow of people wanting to join groups and organizations, apparently newcomers. I did a live stream with Jason James yesterday, and we went through child sex trafficking rings, and he goes, he used to investigate this stuff, and then people started giving him death threats, and he said he got the information to the FBI, and the FBI doesn't do anything. Well, the reason the FBI doesn't do anything is I pointed to Detective Helen Bruce. All it takes is one agent investigates a child sex trafficking ring, and they suspend them for bringing the department into disrepute, and it's a chilling effect. Basically, what you're saying is there's some really powerful people involved in this. Don't go there. And that's how you silence law enforcement officers. Witchcraft, I mean, I don't know. I'm guessing it's just a child sex trafficking ring, and they put on some masks or something. I don't know about that. And Hubner, thank you for reposting the stream. Sunshine3334. Why do we have gender studies in university? Ridiculous. We are turning out educated idiots. Yeah, go watch what happened to Francis Widdowson at Lethbridge University. It's crazy. Like, these kids, they're just screaming I have no problem. Like, hey, man, if you want to waste your money, it's fine. Don't waste my money to this stupid university. We need to defund those universities. One more godless woman. Calling education indoctrination sounds like a conspiracy. That is why I call education the international ignorization of people. That's a good one. Okay, let me go back and let me just read some of this. So many comments. I'll try to get back to the comments. What I wanted to say is this guy down here. Where'd he go? No. Oh, I have to go back here. Here, I see crap daily, man. You guys should follow this guy. I really like pretty much everything this guy says. Slappy is a toxic rage farmer. He's the quintessential paid operative. His job is to toss Molotovs into reasonable discussion and paint it as extreme. The rah Canada position. Basically, capitulation, acceptance to our new normal is the only acceptable idea. They do this all the time. They try to derail things, and because the People's Party is not, it doesn't have mark. It doesn't have any strategy. The candidates, they constantly find themselves having to fight with people, Conservative Party apparatchiks, and this guy is one of them. And this is a targeted campaign. You can deal with it in one of two ways. You can appoint people to go out there and to cut through this and say, this is what they're saying. This is what actually happened. Just like with that social media post by X, the Conservative Party is saying that the PPC called those influencers, called them out for coming after your children. But what they actually did was they were thanking those influencers for highlighting that the Conservative Party of Canada is coming for your kids. And this is what the Conservative Party does. You can do that education, or you can preempt this and adopt the policy of the best defense is a good offense. And you can go out there and you can attack the Conservative Party. The PPC is not doing that. They're relying on their base to do that, and their base doesn't have the skill set necessary to do that. So they go out there and they start screaming and swearing, and then they get labeled as PPC bros, which backfires on the party. And they say, "Oh, see, the party, it's a not a serious party." The raw Canada position, basically capitulation and acceptance to our new normal, is the only. Yeah. He's a red Tory that amplified uniparty position, here to defend this liberal dumpster fire from the extreme right wing, whatever the blank that is, attacking legitimate criticism as the second coming of the Klan. He's the all paths lead to only one acceptable route, the suicidal one we're on. This is exactly what I was saying. They don't want us to become a republic like the US. They don't want us to have freedoms. They don't want the country to reform. They want to continue on with the status quo because they currently have all the power. And these people are scum, to be honest. People should mute this moron because he's a threat to legitimate discourse. Nothing constructive to offer except that we should accept our fate as failed kleptocracy. Yeah, I agree. Well, since you're in the chat, Squirrel Nuts, I'm gonna put this guy in. Squirrel Nuts says Slapsky is a UN agent. Lol. Yeah, I don't know the guy. I'm gonna bring up this comment from Nico. Man, I am falling behind from my actual work today. Nico Lagan, we brought him on to PSD. I really like this guy. He understands that Canada has become too feminized. He's a devout Christian. He believes in strong family values and strong men as a bulwark against the drift towards the left. But I digress. He's talking about these guys that Chris Erickson, my co-host, he put out a post, says, "I'd love to debate these." But this picture has become infamous. Basically, they've been tied to the Conservative Party of Canada. And he goes, "Do they take money from the CPC? Who knows? But it doesn't matter. Money is not the only way to be kept in check, like private phone calls, podcast appearances, visit to the Parliament, and invitation to conventions." Yes, you're selling access. When you give access, that person, their following increases, then they get money indirectly. It's like a form of osmosis. The truth in the matter is that most conservatives will not call out the CPC the way they call out the Liberal Party. Yeah, I'd say the same thing about the PPC, but that's fine. We don't have to get partisan. They believe or sell you the idea that our problems are left versus right, when in fact they are elites versus the commoners. This is exactly what I said. When we say it's not left versus right, it doesn't mean that there is no left. The country is drifting to the left. Nico knows this. The Overton window is like far, far to the left. It's hugging up against Karl Marx. But the thing is, we the people are being sidelined. They're not listening to us. Yeah, it's a big club. You ain't in it. It's not a coincidence that Pierre Poilievre doesn't do podcasts or interviews with people like me that will openly call him out. Yeah, this whole operation started with Northern Perspective when Pierre Poilievre went on there for like 30 minutes and they asked him the most softball questions. And even then, Pierre, he torpedoed the interview. The poor guys tried their best, but Pierre Poilievre he sucks on interviews and podcasts for some reason. Chris Erickson, I would love to debate anyone in the picture below. My position is that they're no different than the CBC. Again, like these people might be good people. I really like Mark Nixon. This woman, apparently she's a mother. I had no idea who the hell this guy is. I don't really know much of the other ones. Jasmine Lane she's a pro. But I'm sorry, if you connect yourselves to a political party, you're going to get attacked for it. Oh man, this is turning into a 2-hour podcast. I'm losing my voice. This is something I put out. I guess I still have a soft spot for the PPC, considering I ran for them. But what I'm saying is, this guy, when the PPC doesn't do its job, the responsibility falls to the base to put out messaging for the party. So Awaken the Lions Roar. He puts out a messaging it's not what you want associated with the party. Man, this guy is a certified dickhead. I bet he knows exactly, this is really bad stuff. And he puts a picture of, who is this, Mario? It looks like a penis, I guess. And Elijah comes back and he says, classless responses like this from PPC shills is why the party will not get anywhere. I saw this all the time. This is what they do. It's a violation of party guidelines on professionalism, as I said. Do you see what they just did? When somebody not associated with the party makes a statement, the opposition links that statement to the party, right? But with these social media influencers, now they're doing the exact opposite. They are directly linked to the party, but when you call them out for making it easy, targeting our kids, then they say, how could you say that? These are innocent, independent social media influencers. Do you see that? With the PPC, everyone is the party owns the mistakes of people not related to them. With the Conservative Party, the party, these people become independent and the party has nothing to do, severs ties with them for some reason. So I write that. The Weird Canadian says, so you are okay with the political party calling people essentially what amounts to child grooming? And I went to this guy's profile and he says, tech for good, content for change, Newfoundland based, with the Weird Canadian, a fighter of free speech. It's funny if you go through it, there's a whole bunch of contradictions. It's getting harder and harder to tell who's a bot these days, but I don't know. Maybe he's a person. But in any case, the shoe fits. It doesn't, though. They support Bill C4. This Bill C4, here's the straight... See, that like they are... These people, they get in here and they just have to get people spinning their wheels. They have to sow doubt and confusion, and they try to derail the conversation. Whereas the conversation is the Conservative Party is morally bankrupt. The Conservative Party is not conservative. And then they'll go down some rabbit hole, and this poor guy, Ann Hilton, or poor woman, now what is she going to do? She's going to sit down and read the text of Bill C4? First of all, you got to mute these people, but you could just say, did you hear the Conservative Party convention candidates within that convention sounding like leftists? What they're asking you is to believe them, not your own lying eyes. Now we're getting to the Alberta issue. Again, I hate attacking people. I don't want to make it about me versus them. I'm not a celebrity. I'm just an ordinary Canadian. But when you you're in politics and you're changing the trajectory of the country, you will get called out. Mario says it was great to finally meet Jason Kenney. I remember when I went to Coots to support the protesters there. These guys were holding F Kenny signs, and I'm like, "Who's Kenny? Are you talking about South Park?" And they're like, "No, the Premier Kenny." So this guy says it's finally great to meet Jason Kenney, the guy who's a piece of trash, who's recently he's come out of his hiding. I guess it's safe now for him to be in public again, or at least online. And he's putting messaging that's anti-America. He just came out in that awesome viral video that Trump put out of Obama and Michelle dancing like monkeys. Um, he's coming out. He's like, "This is horrendous." If you watch the whole thing, it's just a whole bunch of animals. Clintons are donkeys, I think. Donald Trump is a genius. I think he's doing this stuff to bait them, and then they release, and the left loses their mind, and then they release the whole video, and the left looks like idiots. He's incredibly sharp, has better memory than I could ever hope for. Has a great sense of humor, saw firsthand why he's liked and respected by so many people. It's incredible what he, Stephen Harper, and the Conservatives did for Canada. Something's going on with Stephen Harper coming out, um, with Joe Biden, Obama, and Clinton coming out, putting that statement, with Carney going to China, with the coup attempt in China. I think this is like a orchestrated last ditch effort by the Democrat Party and Perkins Coie to try to get the country, the world back in the hands of the globalists, the global elites, the city of London. I just don't know what it is. Like everything's happening at the same time, but in this specific case, they're probably trying to. They're telling these influencers, here's your script, read this. The point behind it is to prevent Alberta independence, because if Alberta goes, the Conservative Party is doomed. So this is another gentleman I wanted to bring up. I've been on this guy's interview podcast twice. I really like the guy. I think he has a good heart. And he's trying to help Canadians the only way he can. He's in the U.S. right now. He's trying to help them get visas to get the hell out of Canada, which is the most benevolent thing you could do for Canadians right now: get them the hell out of the country. He says, "I'm not criticizing him. Who do you think could win in a vote?" Anyway, he's asking if Jamil Javani. He's throwing his weight behind Jamil Javani. I don't know. Everything just feels really strange. Like I don't know. People are groping around trying to find the light switch in the dark, find some way out of this mess, or people are just paying social media influencers. Again, I like Clyde. I'm not saying he's a bad guy, but it's just I'm seeing these things like. But hey, if anybody from the Green Party wants me to promote them, I'm taking money. Give me $100 or best offer, and I'll promote you guys. Are we at the end? Here we go. This is one from the Remanded. I know he's in the audience right now, and I'm not. Again, we're not attacking First Nations people directly, but Remanded put this post out yesterday. Everyday decisions made by First Nations affect multiple industries, including land use, water management, forestry, mining, oil and gas, property rights, and development projects. Does BC have a provincial government? Are our elected officials working in our best interests? I'm seeing more and more of this, whereas 12 months ago, you could not talk about this without being labeled a bigot and a racist, and you get the entire communist establishment protesting outside your door. Now the Remanded's doing this. Dominic Cinelli brought this up, and I've seen this even in the last 72 hours. There's an increase in this stuff. This is what I was referring to, and what I'm saying is, I think Canadians have fun here. 1,000 views. I usually get like 100. Canadians they've reached their breaking point. We haven't hit rock bottom yet, but they've reached their breaking point. They're stealing our land. They're they're molesting the children. They're, at the very least, they are indoctrinating and brainwashing the kids, and they're bringing in millions of foreigners that we don't want here. And the Canadians are just sick and tired of it. They don't care anymore if you call them bigots, which is what that Slipinski guy was saying. So you have the population that's going in one direction. They've just had it. They're like an angry mob. They're losing it. They've pretty much picked up their pitchforks. And on the other hand, you have that like elitist mayor that's looking down on those people and saying, "You guys are scum. You're the deplorables. You're the irredeemables. You're the dregs. You are the what was the other one they used? Deplorables, irredeemables, dregs. Basically the MAGA base, like the working class people, the ordinary people. They're looking down on them." Uh, all right, I think I can stop there. See if there's any comments. Sunshine Mark, you told one of our vets who speak out against the maid to maid herself. Yeah, maid's another problem. I remember when they were introducing maid. This is people who say there is no left right. Like the majority of our problems are coming from the left. Um, you give the left an inch and they take a mile. And look at maid. They would go into the schools and they would say, imagine here's Susan. Susan is bedridden. She's a quadriplegic, doesn't have a tongue, can't talk, unable to blink, blind. Like what they're trying to say is that she's in constant pain. There's no way for her to communicate, and she can't take her own life. That was the argument. MAID is for people who are in severe pain and they're not able to take their own life. Would it not be the humane thing to end their life, right? And they went into schools and they were pushing this propaganda to the children. Children are stupid anyway, right? We're impressionable. You're impressionable as a child, and people bought it. And now, like, you're getting made for being depressed. You're getting made, essentially you're getting made for the government having debt. You're a burden to the government. They can't pay for your health care, so they incentivize you to kill yourself. You give the left an inch, they take a mile. I don't think that's happened anywhere on the right. It's like I don't know anyone where they said, like, okay, maybe we shouldn't have gay pride parade, and then they're locking up all the gay people. Like, if somebody has an example of that on the right, I'd like to hear it. And if it does happen, everybody on the right opposes it. Like, the Patriot Act, all this censorship. If you want to say that's coming from the right, hell yeah, I'll get behind you. I mean, the government, but that's not the right. The government, they took an inch there, and they wanted an inch in there. Actually, they just came in and they take miles and miles. That's different. Sunshine. Crown land used to be open to people. My grandfather got a piece of crown land when he got married. Tell me more about that. When you say got a piece, like do they gift it or do they lease it? I know that the Romans, when they took over, conquered a people and they stole their land, some of it would go to the senators, but a chunk of it would stay in the hands of the Senate and the people of Rome, and they would lease it out to the senators, and the profits from that would go back to the people. I mean, that was in theory. In practice, they just, the senators would steal it, but they would give like pennies on the dollar for the leases. Peter Wood, big issue in Vancouver, Granville. Let's focus on Whistler. I'm not sure what you're talking about, Peter. Can you clarify, please? Arnold Hano, hey, buddy. Good to see you're still alive. You made it out to America. You're in the land of the free. What we are seeing happening now is spy versus spy, live in living color. All sides of the political scale are aligned no matter what crap they spew from their lips. Yeah, Spy versus Spy for people that aren't 100 years old. It's a comic book we used to read when we were kids. It's this black spy and this white spy, and they're just trying to kill each other. And like, there's no difference between them, is what Arnold's saying. Clown World, the PPC did come out with a statement. They shouldn't have taken down the post, though. Yeah, I have it right here. I'm getting tired. I might go back to bed. Oh, that's not it. People's Party of Canada. Read our statement. The CPC unanimously backed Bill C4, a law that imposes radical gender ideology on kids. Stop using the word radical. Stop calling it radical. Stop even calling it gender ideology. Like, tone down the messaging. Transgenderism, trans ideology, confusing the kids, brainwashing the kids. Something else. Focus group it. Figure out a better word. You use radical gender ideology, you automatically you lose the crunchy moms and the yoga moms and pretty much all moms. Bill C4. The problem is it's nobody understands what it is. It's just a poorly worded bill, and it's one of those things that it's like triple negatives in there. But just say you have to say that it's an erosion of parental rights. When asked to distance themselves from it at their convention, CPC delegates said no. You see what I'm saying? Like the way that it's worded, there's so many negatives in here. When asked to distance themselves from it at their convention, CPC delegates said no. Is that what the bill was? To distance themselves from Bill C4? So they said no to a law that imposes radical gender ideology on kids. So they want to impose radical gender. Like, you have to simplify this. Come on, guys. Now the cheerleaders chose outrage instead of accountability. Oh my God, you can't, man, to whoever manages the social media account, you cannot put more than one idea into one post. So you can't talk about, I mean, there's two ideas, but you can't talk about Bill C4 and also talk about the social media influencers, first of all. Secondly, you can't just refer to their cheerleader. I'm assuming it's the social media guys without explaining who the cheerleaders are. Read our statement. I mean, nobody reads this stuff. I really like the long format stuff Max puts out, but I just don't know if the average person reads it. I'm not reading it. Yeah. Yeah, this was, I wasn't too pleased with this, but one more godless woman. Again, people will accept land survey title fraud because people believe that their land home is its financial asset. Money is the root of all evil. Yeah. I had another person, again, same financial economic advisor. He said when the white men came to the Americas, the First Nations, the Indians at the time, they had an expression. They say that the white man would talk with forked tongue. So they would say one thing, but do another. And he said what's happening is people think in terms of, what's in it for me? How can I make a profit? As opposed to the Christian principle of do unto others as you would want them to do unto you. Gary, that Lethbridge mosh pit was the worst attempt at crowd surfing I've ever seen. The officers need more training. I almost want to bring it up. Let me see if I can find it. It did look like a mosh pit. I just can't believe Frances Widdowson, she still believes that these universities can be salvaged. They just look completely unhinged. All right, let's get this one. God, that's loud. If somebody can tell me what was going on, like, was she refusing to leave? Is that why they dragged her out and they lifted her? But I can't imagine she weighs more than like 75 pounds. Uh, these cops they couldn't get her out in another way. The university students, man, they're just a write off. I mean, I no longer believe in canceling student debt. Let them live with that debt. Andre Malosh, after the beating the PPC suffered in the last election, if the party leaders had understood this tragic situation we are facing, they should have resigned. The leader must assume leadership to the very end. No constitution, no accountability. Yeah. It was, I mean, you and I have talked about this. One of the reasons I left is there was just, I was like, why are we not having like a Zoom call with all the candidates in one Zoom meeting to share notes on what the failures were? And I did that, and I got a little bit of blowback because I did it on my own. I'm sorry, man. After like 3 years of supporting the party, I think I'm entitled to, um, do something on my own if the party's not doing it. But I never really got the sense that they were going to course correct. Like this is something you should do when it's still fresh in your mind. Why did you fail? I agree that everyone involved, especially at national. Let's put Max aside for the moment. National headquarters, everyone should have been fired. Like, we have lost so many elections. We lost a ton of votes. We will, you're all fired until we figure out what to do, who to bring on. Like, that's how you do it in the company. When something blows up, you send an email. We're ceasing all operations until we figure out what to do, and then they get their pink slips in a few weeks. That's national headquarters. The next national executive, Nathan McMillan, should have definitely been asked to step down. I would have further said, here's how I think Max should have done it. We're opening it up to elections. The local PPC CEOs, they can vote on a national executive. It could be one of their own. But Maxime Bernier gets ultimate veto power. So you turn it into like a monarchy. Now, regarding Max, I don't think you can replace Max. Like, Max is sort of like, to the PPC base, he's kind of like Donald Trump. He is the face of hope and freedom for those people. So you can't do it. And if you don't believe me, look at the leadership review where he got 75%, despite the massive failure. There is also the issue of people. One of the weaknesses we have when we're deciding whether to get rid of a leader, who is going to replace that leader? You shouldn't be asking that question. You should be, if you had courage, you would replace a leader, you'd remove them, then figure out who to replace the leader with. But people don't work that way. And then you have the loyalty from a lot of the candidates. So I don't think you can remove Max. And I actually don't think Max is the problem. Yes, he is. The buck stops with him. So any leadership failures land on his shoulders, but he's surprisingly really good at talking to people when it's off the cuff. I've seen him operate when he's schmoozing and he's talking to big donors. I've seen him when he's giving presentations. He's really good. I couldn't do it. I'm just too I'm too hot tempered, and so he's not the problem. He can stay, but the party's got to reform. JT, from all you've said of the PPC, it's obvious it needs a change of leadership to me. Yeah, but if you go on my X page, I pinned my constitution. The party, people don't understand what a party is. People think that the party is the leader of the party. That's what they call them. Other people think that it's the board, or in the case of the PPC, the national executive. I see it's the members. So the membership owns the party, and the membership decides what the party is through the staffing. This is what we call the national executive, national headquarters. Also through the local staffing, through the EDAs, electoral district associations, and the CEOs and CFOs that run the EDA, and the volunteer support staff. With the Conservative Party and the Liberal Party, it's also the board. There's a board of electors. The Conservative Party is run like the government of Canada is run, through an oligarchy called the board. In Canada, it's the crown. And then the candidates, they should really be external to the party. So once the party has that mechanism, that operations in place, and they've come up with the vision and the marketing strategy and all the documentations and the social media accounts, and they built up that brand and it's a product, then they go sell that product. And you could say that you're selling it to the candidates, and you say to the candidates, we have this product, are you willing to work with us as a sort of a sales engineer? So it is a bit of a recruitment, but that candidate, it's almost like they're external. And then the candidates should get together and they pick a leader and they say, all right, you be the single voice for us. And this is, if you look at the US, this is how they do it in their Congress. The Speaker of the House is elected by those candidates. But we've warped that, where we think that the leader of the party is the party. It shouldn't be like that. It should be the people that create the product. But we don't really have grassroots political parties here. Clown World. Since I got here late, did I miss you talking about Zalia posting a photo of him and Kenny and actually praising Kenny? He got badly ratioed on that one. I hadn't at the time, but I guess you saw that I just did it right now. Let's just quickly go back to it. Where was it? I hate you, Google Chrome. I hate you with a passion. I believe it's this one. Did he get ratioed? What does ratioed mean? It means there's more comments than there's likes. I should know this now. Randy Hillier. Did Jason offer you to take you to Thailand, Mario? Is one of his favorite destinations. What? Jesus, Randy. Yeah, yeah. He's just it doesn't bother me that they're doing marketing for the party. I suggested this to the PPC as well. I said, um, the PPC should consider making alliances and connections with different social media influencers and podcasters and start that now before the election. They didn't listen. And now the Conservative Party has taken that idea. And this is another thing I told to the PPC. I'm like, we have 3 to 6 months runway with the PPC before the Conservative Party steals our ideas. So now they've done it. It's not that. What bothers me is that, this gentleman, Mario, he's on the wrong side. Like, the Conservative Party is an establishment party, and Canadians are starting to wake up to this. And like, he's just picked the wrong time to do this. 6 years of this. This party said more vaccines faster, more money to Ukraine. What the hell are they conserving? They're supporting transgender ideology. Like, just change the name to Progressive Light. You don't have to call yourself conservative. The conservative influencer photo placed beside a similar photo of the Muppets is hilarious. That's spot on. I haven't seen that one. JT. Oh, I didn't mean to reply to you in the okay. Clown World. Thanks. Zork Cockburger. I haven't had that dickhead meme for months. I've had that dickhead meme for months, but I didn't know who it was. I just made me laugh. Yeah, that's a fortuitous. Clown World, there it is. JT, Clown World. Oh my God, Payman. Clyde Do Nothing. Goodness gracious. He's not a bad person. I mean, I've been on his podcast. You know who is a bad person? That Splapinski guy, or Andrew Coyne. Who's the guy who did Operation Cactus when they went after the PPC in 2019? Like, these are bad people. These are evil people. People that work in Perkins Coie, like the attorneys for the Democrat Party. Like, these are vile, evil people, like Epstein-style characters. Warren Kinsella is who I was thinking. Clyde Do Something. Yeah, maybe we don't agree with them, but I'm not going to start social media feuds. I'm not going to say, I don't like this guy. I'm Payman Ascari. I endorse this podcaster, but not that one. It's pointless. Andre Milosh, $100 a year for your fees. I am interested. It's if you buy for multiple years, I can give you a discount. Sunshine, the globalists lost and they know it. Yeah, it does. But I always say they will rip the wallpaper out as they're being dragged out. Rip the wallpaper down. Doug Bebb. This morning, I read an article that featured a smiling photo of the Soros kid, Alex, praising the president of Spain for naturalizing 500,000 illegals in that country. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. My sister lives in Spain, and they're having problems as well. They're getting sick and tired of immigration. Spain had a vibrant culture. So we used to go there in the 90s. They would shut businesses down at lunch for siesta, and they everything was about being happy. And then the EU came in, and now everything is it's turning into Germany. Everything's being urbanized. There's Mallorca is this beautiful island. They have this Paseo Maritimo. It's 3 lanes of road on one side, 3 lanes on the other side. It's right in front of the water, and it's the principal way of getting in and out of the city. They want to shut that all down and make it pedestrian traffic only. The congestion in that city is going to go skyrocketing. But what I'm saying is all of this crap that you see in downtown Vancouver, it's happening in places in Europe as well. But I drift. The 500,000 illegals, yeah, I don't know. I mean, they should be they should be jailed and then sent back. That's my view. And if you don't want to spend the money on the jailing, just kick them out, take a biometric photo of their picture, take their DNA. You don't have rights, in my opinion, if you enter a country illegally. And I don't know, pass a law. If you ever come back illegally, where you're going to get the death sentence. Like, somebody else came up with another solution for the UK. He said, declare, military invasion, bring in the special forces, and give them boats. And if you see anybody trying to cross the channel illegally, you destroy that boat and you give them license to kill those people on the boat. Kind of like what Trump did with those boats in South America, the Caribbean. This is war. This is an invasion. If you don't want to, if you're not going to take it seriously, then you deserve to have your country run over. And this is, again, the left. Everything we're going through is because of the left. Remember that kid that tragically died in the Mediterranean crossing over illegally, and they took a picture of that, upside down body drowned? They weaponized people's empathy, and they flooded Europe with illegals. And I remember my friends in Europe, in Vancouver at the time, they bought into this media narrative that it's just a bunch of racists that are blowing this out of proportion. Percentage wise, it's not that high. The crime being committed, like the rapes, if you remember, there's that massive scandal in Germany during Christmas once, when all these Middle Eastern men start groping the women. The rapes have increased in Sweden. The media is saying that's all bunk, it's all nonsense, and people believe it in the West. Next up might be made for old PPC candidates. Yeah, I don't think they'd go that far. I mean, actually, they're technically already doing the BC Mental Health Act. If you disagree with the government, they will drug you and they'll lobotomize you. And then they could say, oh man, this guy is just so unhappy, we should offer him MAID. That's how they'll do it. Sunshine, he had a deed for it. I have a copy of that deed somewhere. Arnold is an American now. Yeah, he believes in liberty. Andre will be going to bed a little anxious tonight. How big of a staff does PPC have? I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, you typically get between 2 and 5 people per riding. So if you got 343, multiply that by 5. But that's distributed and they're volunteers. The actual paid ones are in headquarters. I would say anywhere between 5 and 15, but I don't work there. I don't know. The remanded. The basic support and setup for each candidate coming on board was something I noticed when comparing NDP, CPC, LPC, Greens. Example, setting up the top 3 social media platforms so voters had the ability to communicate with candidates. I remember now, Remanded, you and I were talking about this. And we foolishly thought that we could put together some sort of scheme, user manual, and we advising candidates how to use what platforms, what age demographics to target, how to message, what word to use, what language, and we put this together and we share it with headquarters. 2 proud Canadians just volunteering their time, and headquarters would share it with all the candidates. Nothing. In this world, if somebody doesn't pay you for your time, then they don't value your efforts. That's a mistake we made. Remember, cemeteries are full. Cemeteries are full of irreplaceable people. They're called democratic voters. Clown World. Max never needs a script. We have to give him that. Then think of PP speaking off the cuff. Yeah, Max is better when he's not scripted, I find, than when he is scripted, and he's really relatable with people. One more godless woman. If Jason Kenney ever had an ounce of testicular fortitude, he left it in Dina Hinshasper. Dina Hinshasper. Good one. Zork, Clyde Do Nothing is another fake freedom fighter. I just don't want to start battles online, man. I see these people. I just don't really have the stomach for fighting. All right, guys. No more comments. Actually, I'm just going to go up and see if there's comments. Yeah, there we go. Peggy. I don't know what it is, but it's 8:56 a.m. where I am. It says 3:47 for yours. Your comments get buried at the top. Peggy says Jeffrey Epstein was involved in the creation of the Young Global Leaders Program at Harvard. Jason and I went over this yesterday. Yep, Jeffrey Epstein, yes, there was some sex trafficking going on, but he's basically a George Soros. He's He's an instrument of insert descriptive handle here, like the deep state, the global elites, the bankers. Like, we're not running this show. I go back to Helen Bruce. Helen Bruce is supposed to be our girl, our gal, our guy. She's the one that's supposed to be doing law enforcement. And yet, somebody, probably from the pharmaceutical companies, leaned on somebody to lean on the police chief to make an example of this woman, so that now this gal is not our gal anymore. She's a nobody. And we don't, law enforcement doesn't work for us. That's kind of like Epstein. It's kind of like George Soros. There's got to be many, many more. Perkins Coie, there's another one. Finance through J.P. Morgan. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's these. I mean, I use the word bankers or central bankers, but it's also the finance companies. I mean, J.P. Morgan is a bank, but BlackRock. You got all of these interests, financial interests, and they're seemingly above the law because of, again, it comes back to Helen Bruce. You get enough Helen Bruces out there, you make an example of them, and then the J.P. Morgans can get away with this stuff. Peggy, our country is offering crown land to developers for public housing, not individuals. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big supporter of crown land, but and again, I don't know if they're giving leases to the developers. The government just doesn't want people to be sovereign. The government doesn't want agency. They want slavery and servitude. And the way you get that is through consolidation. Now, these developers, I don't know, ideally it would be better if they were single unit developers. Like my father, he would build one house and he would flip it. And that was sort of to me, that was a Canadian dream. There was a lot of Canadians. The first house we bought was by this guy who bought the land, built the house, lived in the house for 6 months, declared principal residence, and then sold it. But now you're getting these massive developers, like what happened with Doug Ford. He buys land, gives land to his friends, and then takes it out of the green belt. You've got these developers. Another reason for that is, if you watch my interview with Jeff Colvin, I believe, the former mayor of Chestermere, Alberta, the most recent one I did with him, he lays out this. He laid it out exactly how the corruption and the fraud works. You have a developer that wants to develop 100 homes, and then the city comes to the developer and says, you can build those 100 homes, but you got to build this bridge here to connect whatever. And the developer says, sure. They go meet with the builder. The builder says it will cost $1 million to build this bridge. And the developer says, okay, at $1 million, it fits into my profit margin. It's not a problem. I agree. Then that developer, the builder goes away, the bridge builder. The developer and the city, they go in a room, and the city's like, okay, we want you to pay $5 million for this bridge. And he's like, no, that blows through my profit margin. They're like, don't worry, you'll still pay 1 million. We'll get a loan in the name of the city, and we'll pay the other 4 million. And the developer kind of knew what was going on, and I think the developer walked away, but maybe he didn't. That you take out a $4 million loan against the city, the people, the taxpayers, that money disappears. It doesn't go to building that bridge. It doesn't even go to that builder. It goes to the builder, it goes to a lawyer. And Jeff Colvin mapped this out for me, but I forget. But he said, it goes to the lawyer I know the name, he knows the name of the lawyer, and it goes to the lawyer, goes here. Eventually it makes it back to the RCMP, which is why when he shared this info with the RCMP tried to come and arrest him. It's harder to do that with individual developers, like both my father, for example, or if it's just a single person that's building their own home, they're less likely, like the ordinary person will say, wait a minute, you're going to take a loan out against the people of my own city and the money's going to disappear? Walk me through that. Peggy, I have no idea why I checked all my settings. Thanks for checking. Yeah, I feel really bad because you're a loyal viewer and you give me a lot of good intel, but your things get buried. Government wants everyone jammed in towers so they can surveil. Yeah, but I think it's something more basic than that. Like, it's not just that they want them surveilled. When you are packing that many people so close to each other, they become dependent on a third party. In this case, it's the government. Think of a plane. You know, um, everyone is willing to give up their rights on a plane because it's understood that you're too close to other people. You know, you can't necessarily snore. Like you can't just lie down on in the middle of the hallway. You know, the walking area. You can't go to the washroom and leave the door open. You know, like it isn't home. You can't just take your pants off and walk around in your underwear. It's the same thing with a city. When you're so close to each other, you start ceding your rights, and I think that's what government wants. On point. Clown World agrees with you. It makes for easier control. Yes, Clown World. That's what I was saying. Alice, not woke. Politicians get kickbacks as well from that loan. They probably do. I just don't know how. But you know, and I go back to the First Nations thing. When you're a lawyer in British Columbia and you're heavily involved with this grift operation, you know, this First Nations money laundering machine, and you see it happen, and then you go into politics, you automatically know how it works. I'm a network engineer. I don't see it happen, so I don't know how it works. I'm less likely to go along with it. That's another reason that they love having lawyers. They're crooked right from the get go. Alice, they don't want any where'd you go? They don't want any development in the hinterland and have purposely made us live on the coasts. Yeah. A friend of mine, Timothy Knight, he always says, you know, it was very deliberate the way that they built that railroad. It was supposed to go up north and branch off into multiple different areas in the west, but they didn't because it's easier to control. They wanted everything near the big city centers. This is not a new thing. This has been going back 100, 150 years. If you look at the east, as soon as you hit Ontario, it turns into more of a web. Like they're designed the way the province should be designed. If you hit the U.S., the 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 way that they've built the roads out, it's a maze. You know, like you can get from any city to any other city anywhere because there's always roads between them. In Canada, everything's a single line. Where urbanization comes into that, R.B. Ham and we did an interview, and he said growing up, Saskatchewan was like this. Like you had these towns, and you had roads connecting the towns, and you know you were small farming villages. As things got urbanized, actually not even that, they built a highway, and things just move towards that highway. Like when you build a highway, people they gravitate towards that highway. Um, that's another way that they control you. And I think it is by design. Like the whole purpose is to get people off of the land. They want to lock up the land so people can't go into the land, and you can control them easier in these big, dense urban centers. And I think lab grown meat is a part of that. First of all, it's another justification to get people off the land, but it's also lab grown meat is not like a tomato. Like anybody can grow a tomato, right? God has given us that ability, or Mother Nature has given us the ability to just plant the seed and it grows. Lab grown meat, you need millions and millions of dollars investment from JP Morgan. You got to hire a whole bunch of people. And it ties into what we talked about earlier with Lethbridge. You got these dumb kids, brainwashed kids coming out of university. You got to put them somewhere. You can't put them on a farm. You know, a kid with purple hair and a septum ring, they're not going to be, they go in there, they give lip to the farmer. The farmer's like, get lost. I'm not going to train you. But you take that same kid and you put him in a lab grown meat factory with an HR, more HR people than you got technicians, and they'll fit right in, and they'll go, flick a switch or they'll do something in there, and they get food prices go up, but who cares? You're just printing money. Man, I want to go. Sunshine. Rumor has it that we got an ELE incoming, and the elites know and can't control. A huge amount of people came up with plan to depop easier. I don't know what ELE is. Payment clown. I don't know what you're talking about. Payment. I've done all those things on a plane. Clown world. That's disturbing. One more godless woman. How payment? It's legal. I'm sorry, I lost the train of thought. Extinction level event. Maybe. I don't know. Alice, you're right. We only have one road into the interior. We learned you can't get out of here during the pandemic. Yeah, they control the roads. They control everything. Okay, I'm out of here, guys. Thank you for stopping by. I guess I got to go do something productive for the rest of the day. Take care.